Okay, a blessed day, everyone. Welcome again to our lecture video. So, this lecture video is all about the sounds of language. Sound is a very important feature of language. Can we communicate without sounds? Yes or no? Okay, yes, of course. We can communicate without sounds, like nonverbal forms of communication. For example, the waving of our hand, the raising of our eyebrow, or just a blink of our eye, or even a photography or a sketch, or even the distance between two persons. That's a form of communication. Yes, we can really communicate. But since most of us are capable of producing and perceiving sounds, we really have to talk about it. The sounds of language. So when we say sounds, you might have already the idea about the disciplines of linguistics that will deal with sounds of language. So, yes, I know you already have an idea. So that's phonetics and phonology. So going back to phonetics and phonology again, phonetics, it studies speech sounds as physical objects. So how are speech sounds made? How may different sounds do languages use? How does sound travel through the air? How is it registered by ears? How can we measure speech? This is quite hard for phoneticians since they cannot see what they are studying. You cannot see how sound travel through the air. You cannot totally see the exact movement of the tongue while the person is speaking. The more with the vibration of the vocal cords in other movements of the epiglottis, for example. So how is it registered by ears? How can we measure speech? We are studying something abstract, something we can never see. So to compare it to phonology, phonology studies how languages organize sounds into different patterns. So, like, how do languages organize sounds to distinguish different words? How do languages restrict or constrain sequences of sounds? Or what sorts of changes or alterations do sounds undergo if sequences arise that don't obey the restrictions? Or how sounds organized into larger constituents like in syllables, words, or phrases? So, in order for you to have a better understanding, let me give you an analogy. Imagine you have beads, no, beads for bracelets. So if you study about the beads used for making bracelets, you're doing phonetics. But if you study how to connect the beads in order to form a bracelet, you're doing phonology. So a very simple analogy for a better understanding. So to recall with our topic in the previous lecture video, phonetics has three subdisciplines. The first is the articulatory phonetics, second is the acoustic phonetics, and the third is the auditory phonetics. So for now, we will talk about articulatory phonetics. What is articulatory phonetics? It only deals with the production of speech sounds. So, of course, since we are talking about the production of speech sound, we will go into the main tool for speech production, and that's the vocal tract. So, the vocal tract is composed of the trachea, the larynx, the vocal folds, the epiglottis, and the pharynx. So the trachea is the windpipe connecting the lungs and the larynx. So when you begin to speak, you pull down your abdomen. So it's between your stomach and the chest. So abdomen. You pull down your abdomen like this. We will try to begin speaking. Okay, so you pull down your abdomen. So the pulling down of the abdomen enlarges your lungs. And when your abdomen relaxes, the muscles around your ribs will compress and will squeeze the lungs, letting the air out to the trachea or the windpipe. So that's the starting point of the journey of sound, the pulling down of the abdomen. So inside the trachea is the larynx. It's also commonly known as Adam's apple, the little box of cartilage above the trachea. So the vocal folds also is inside the larynx, or also called as the vocal cords. It's the two folds of soft tissue inside the larynx that regulates the vibration and pitch. The faster the vibration, the higher the pitch. You can determine it by humming a tune like touch your Adam's apple, or here, the part of your larynx. So try to hum a tune like that. So if you increase your vibration, the pitch will also become higher. Like, so the faster the vibration, the higher the pitch. So we also have epiglottis. What is epiglottis? Epiglottis plays a very important function. Otherwise, without this, we will be choked. For example, muscular structure that folds down over the larynx when you swallow. So it will fold down over the larynx when you swallow in order to prevent the food to enter your lungs. So that's why we will not be choked. And we are also advised, a very common advice, that we should not talk if our mouth is full, because our epiglottis will be confused whether it will fold or not. So if you try to do swallowing and talking simultaneously, there's a tendency that you will be choked. So be safe always. Last is the pharynx. It allows the tongue to move front and back. Therefore, the pharynx is near the root of the tongue. So it's controlling your tongue. So let's try to see the figure of the parts of the vocal tract. So we have here the larynx. So inside the larynx again is the vocal folds or the vocal cords here, soft tissues. So we have the epiglottis. This will fold when you swallow a food. So you also have here the pharynx. So this is controlling the movement of the tongue. Okay, so there are two types of articulators. Articulators are classified into active and passive articulators. Active meaning they're always moving. Passive, they are lazy. They're not always moving. So active articulators include lips, which can be opened or closed, pursed or spread, and the tongue. So we have the upper lip and the lower lip. It can be closed or open. It can be pursed or spread. So that's our lips. It's always moving. Tat, 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 tat. And also our tongue. We have our tongue. So even if our tongue is boneless or has no bones or cartilage, each part of the tongue can move independently. We have here the tip, the blade, the front, the body, or what we call the dorsum, D-O-R-S-U-M, and the root near the pharynx. So it's only a tongue, but that's a very important part of our body. Imagine you without a tongue. So it's only a muscle tissue. So we also have passive articulators. When you say passive, they are only depending on the movements of the active articulators. Lie along the top of the vocal tract. Since I don't have a figure to present, let's do it together. So move your tongue from the back of your upper teeth. So here, at the back of your upper teeth. So if you feel a part, a bony part at the back of your upper teeth, that's the alveolar ridge. It's rough here. And if you move a little backward, you can feel an arc, still bony part. That's the post-alveolar region, the sliding part. And then the hard palate is next of the post-alveolar region. So when you curl your tongue a little. But if you curl your tongue really hard, like that, so that's the soft palate or the velum. And last, the ovula. You can see your ovula once you take a selfie or in the mirror and you say a very loud ah, ah. So you can see a little pink pendulum at above the root of your tongue. That's the ovula. It's like a little pendulum. So we will talk more about articulation, with the manners of articulation, with the place of articulation in our next video. And please bear in mind that in articulation, we are not doing this with conscious thoughts. It's part of our daily routine. Speech production is part of our daily routine, or it's a goal directed activity. It's like when you wake up in the morning and then you take a bath, you don't say, I have to turn on the shower. Okay, the shower is now on. I'm already wet. I have to get the shampoo. I have to get the soap. So I have to apply the soap into my body. I'm done. I'm gonna rinse my hair. So that's not the way you take a bath. So the same with speech production. You don't say, I have to open my lips. I have to let the air out from my trachea or from my lungs, then to my trachea, then to my larynx, to my pharynx. No, not that way. So we produce speech continuously without conscious thoughts. It is automated by frequent practice, or innately we are given the gift to produce speech without our conscious thoughts. So this is a very short lecture video in order for you to really look into this topic with sincerity or and with patience. So in the next lecture video, we will be talking still about articulation, but it's already on the place and the manners of articulation. You can also do your self-study or search for your own resources and share it to our medium of instruction in any medium, like in Messenger or in Google Classroom. That's all. Bye for now.